It's the Secret Rugby Lives, made just for you by Bright Rock, where each week I meet a South African celebrity who's got a pretty cool rugby backstory to the celebrity we know today. And our special guest this time round, that chiselled hunk of the silver screen, Siv Ngesi. So in front of me, a fusion of France and South Africa, the snails and the boerewors, and that'll come together rather nicely later on this year when we see our rugby team charge off to take on the rest of the world, which is exactly, Siv Ngesi, what we did 4 years ago with some exotic food, because you made me try some pretty scary stuff in Japan in 2019.
If it goes into the mouth, I'll try it once.
All right, well, this is thankfully not blowfish, which we had then, which was part of our experience over there. And I remember it in particular because I had to sit next to you for the New Zealand-South Africa game. You commentated in my ear for 80 minutes. You told the entire Japanese crowd that you were Siya Kolisi's brother.
That wasn't me, that was Jeremy Lewis.
But what I do remember is, although I knew how much you loved rugby, it just came across in those 80 minutes just how passionate about the game and about your team, your country you are.
I think for me, I said it to you earlier, I realized I love rugby more than I love the Springboks. And I think a lot of people aren't willing to admit that, but I love rugby. I think it's one of the greatest sports of all times. I love the Springboks through and through. My blood is green, but there's just something about rugby that just makes me lose it.
Now, I know you love rugby because the first time we got to know each other was through the Cape Town Tens, and here was Siv Ngesi, this rising star of comedy and film and television, who was out on the rugby field, and then we discovered you were actually rather good at it. Tell me about the rugby background.
I think if I wasn't an entertainer, I would have been a rugby player. You know, I would have gone to a boys' school, and I've always just wanted to be an entertainer. I love tens. I love the culture of it. I love the camaraderie of it. And I don't even drink alcohol, but tens just works well. You know, I'm not there when they're having the downing and the fines, but I love being on the field and putting my body on the line.
How did you first find rugby? Do you remember that first game, that first practice?
My father was a rugby player. He was a wing, he was fast. But my best rugby moment definitely has to be Stransky's drop goal at 95 World Cup. I knew it was special. I knew something was happening. I knew there was this guy who was in jail for all these years, and it came out. Francois Pienaar, drop goal. Chester Williams. You know, it was always, my mother always drilled it into our heads. So for me, it will always be that drop goal. It'll always be, where were you when he did that drop goal? And I think for me, that was one of the most important moments in South African history.
You ended up not going into rugby, as I think you probably could. You ended up as an entertainer, and very successfully so. Are there parallels between taking on the challenge of entertainment and taking on the challenge of rugby?
I believe that I will outwork them all. I don't believe that there's anyone in the industry who can outwork me, but there's definitely many more talented people than me. Like in those squads, I'm sure there's many people in rugby who are these unbelievable players in high school and they ended up not becoming or being seen. So I think entertainment industry is exactly the same. You might be talented, but if no one sees you, then your talent means nothing. And if you're not willing to work hard on your craft, then you'll never reach the full potential. I think for me, that's what I do with entertainment, is put the parallels of putting the hard work of the sporting background with entertainment.
I've seen you line up on a rugby field against some very large individuals. You're not a small man, but some very, very big people. I've also seen you on screen in movies like The Woman King. Here's Siv Ngesi in Hollywood. What's more daunting for you?
You know, for me, I must be honest, anything, in all of those two examples you made, I'm scared. I'm scared and I'm nervous. And there's something about that fear and the nerves that you have to actually put into the particular challenge. So both of them for me are nerve-wracking, but I love it. It's the same as, I don't know about you, but before I jump on the stage, I'm nervous. And if I'm not nervous, I had to take a moment to be like, okay, cool. Are you really prepared if you're not nervous?
The nerves are never seen. You always look calm and collected, and you always look like you're having a great deal of fun, often with the group of mates you have. And there's one in particular who speaks to this love of rugby that you have. You have an extremely special relationship with Siya Kolisi.
Yeah, it's, you know, a special human who, like I always say to him, I think we haven't seen his full potential just yet. I think, and I think he'll do amazing things, even more amazing off the field than on the field. He's a great guy. It's been getting a lot harder to see him now these days, obviously because he's one of the most well-known rugby players in the world. But he always knows I'm in his back. I have his back, and he has my back. He's a great human, and I actually look forward to him retiring, so we can actually do more and see more of each other.
Well, I think then his challenge will be seeing more of you, because your career is just on the up and up, and you're traveling the world. You're doing incredible things, and I know how much you love it. I know how much it means to you. But if you could turn back time and you had the option, continue as you have today, or Siv Ngesi, the rugby player, which one would you take?
I think for me to be a rugby player, I would have had to go to a boys' school, and that I'm so glad I didn't, because I love ladies. I think I'll always be an entertainer. Yeah, I'll always be an entertainer.
Well, he's a natural entertainer, much like our rugby stars. He's built like one, whether it's on camera or on stage. A great South African, a much-loved South African, with a now not-so-secret rugby life made for you just by Bright Rock. It's Siv Ngesi.
I love you, Bright Rock.